All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything Cultural Podcast. Today, we're doing my preview and prediction for the 2025 Big 12 championship game between BYU and Texas Tech. Red Raiders 11.5 point favorites, 50.5 that total. 12 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC from Jerry's World in Arlington, Texas. Getting things started with that Cougar offense on the Tech defense. Now, these teams did just play about 3 weeks ago, so I think everything you really saw in that game is incredibly relevant to the rematch here for the crown. In what we saw in that game was a BYU offense that struggled going into that contest. It just seemed like an incredible mismatch because this is a very good team, right? Don't make any bones about it. BYU is very good, but when it comes to this matchup against Texas Tech, they just don't stack up very well because this is an offense that's significantly centered around the run game. It's also centered around quarterback Bear Bachmer's size and his ability to make plays on the ground. He has 11 touchdowns this year, 500 plus yards at 6'2", 230, brings a lot of size to the table. And at times this year, you've seen him really be able to hurt opponents by staying ahead of the sticks and utilizing his legs to perfection. You really saw it against Utah. Arizona, I think, is a great example of this. Colorado as well. They're trailing on the road in those games, and he's able to just drop back and run through defenses and pick up, small chunks of yards, and that really helped them methodically move their way through some of these tougher opponents, and that's just not going to be the case against Texas Tech. He was held to 12 yards. It's the lowest total all year long for him outside of the Stanford game where he had 7 yards. Not able to generate much in that front. They only had 1 touchdown, which was late in the game. LJ Martin is a phenomenal running back. This guy also brings a lot of size to the table at 220 pounds, over 1,200 rushing yards, 11 scores on the year. And you're not going to be able to do much against this Texas Tech run defense. It's an elite group. It's no joke. They went to the portal and beefed up this group tremendously, and it has paid big dividends. They're as deep as it gets. This is the best defensive line in the country by a pretty wide margin. You have those 2 elite edge rushers in David Bailey, Romello Height. On the interior, guys like A.J. Holmes, Lee Hunter, Jaden Cofield, Amarian Banks, and Braylon Rigsby. I mean, this is a phenomenal group that has a lot of depth, and they're just so versatile because they have the pass rushers and the size on the interior. And they're giving up 68 rush yards per game. They've not folded once in this area, and they already did it once against BYU. And if the Cougars want to win this game, they're going to have to be better on the football. I mean, that's just how it's going to have to go. That's their identity. That's going to have to be the game plan. Even when Texas Tech played Utah, it's an elite offensive line that has a lot of explosiveness in their run game. Their quarterback's also phenomenal. He's a much better athlete than Bear as well, and they kept him in the pocket throughout the game. I mean, it's going to be impossible for anyone to run on them. So for BYU, they're just going to have to find ways to get creative and try to supplement rush yards. I think this is a good offensive line. It's a physical group. It's an impressive unit led by Bruce Mitchell at center. Just they have a tall task ahead of them, right? If we can try it and sit back and drop back passing and potentially get our guys going in the intermediate range, Chase Roberts, Parker Kingston, these guys are really good. The heart and soul of their football teams for these 2 guys. I think Carson Ryan at tight end's pretty good. That's pretty much it. Those 3 guys and then LJ are going to be catching passes. And Bear's done a pretty good job throwing the football this year. This is a guy that I think can definitely do damage in the intermediate range. He's quite poised, doesn't really turn the football over. So I think he's a respectable passer. He's not a guy that's going to uncork a whole lot of deep balls, though. And if you're going to try to get the ball out in a hurry, maybe that's something he could thrive at. But it's really not been a part of their game this year. And the game plan's just got to be completely different for them to beat Tech because, again, this game just happened. I just don't see any way for it to be different other than them just being able to execute more and try to, outclass Texas Tech where they're going to have a significant strength in. So I think for BYU, it's going to be tough. But a lot of things can happen in college football, and I think that's just going to be what they're going to try to do. Get Bear Bogmar's legs involved, try to do a lot of +1 in the run game. Hopefully you can utilize his size to fall forward, and that's what they've been doing this year a lot. It's going to be a struggle, though. Some other guys on the defensive course for Texas Tech, Jacob Rodriguez in the Heisman race, probably going to get an invite to New York. 100-plus tackles this year, 10 tackles for loss, has 4 picks. He does such a great job when it comes to his ability to make plays in coverage and against the run. So it makes this defense even tougher to they do things against Ben Roberts. Because Rodriguez is having such a great year that Ben does not get enough appreciation. He's a phenomenal run defender, also really good in coverage. I think the secondary, Bryce Pollock's having a really good year outside at corner. You also have Cole Wisnowski's came over, and he's really impressed this year, along with Brendan Jordan. The job is very easy for this secondary. I definitely wonder how they would perform if the D-line gets neutralized. I don't know if they're going to find an opponent that can do that, but I definitely wonder how things would go for the secondary if it's not so easy for them. But so far, they've handled their responsibilities very well, and the secondary's not allowed too many big plays. And against Utah, they were able to get some guys downfield, hit on a couple of them, didn't hit on a couple other ones. And against Arizona State, it's probably your second best example where they were able to really get Jordan Tyson involved, the top receiver in the country, make some plays downfield, and then mobility from the quarterback. Levitt in that game made a lot of plays with his legs. Bear Buckmer, hopefully that's something you can look to implement, is move in the pocket a lot. Trying to find things we can incorporate to get this offense moving, right? Moving to the next part of things, the Texas Tech offense on that BYU defense for Texas Tech. This is a really good offense. Air raid unit has a lot of balance. I think the run game this year has been shockingly very impressive. I thought they'd be missing out on a big opportunity when Quentin Joyner went down, but these two running backs, and Cameron Dickey, Jacoby Williams, have been as good of a tandem as you're going to find. These guys are very good at breaking tackles. They're very good with their interior run game. They love physicality because they both have some good size. Williams has more speed than Dickey. Two nice change of pace backs, and these guys are very productive as well. In the first game against BYU, 149 yards rushing. They really got things going in that second half. At times it was hard. I think in the first half they're running against the BYU team. It's really good. It's not a productive defensive line by any means for BYU, but it's a tough physical group, and they have elite linebackers. Jay Kelly, this guy was tremendous in that first matchup alongside Isaiah Glasker, who's tremendous. But Kelly's really good, phenomenal playmaker. He's going to be a great guy for him in coverage, and he's going to be trying to rattle these running backs down as much as he can. But he had a superstar effort, really kept him in the game, it seemed like at times in that first meeting. It was probably his best game of the year. A lot of the pass rush comes from those two guys, Kelly specifically. He has 10 tackles for loss this year, along with 7 sacks. Glasker also has some nice length in coverage. It's really going to be up to these two guys to really dictate how this game will go. I think the defensive line, again, it's a resilient unit, but nobody really stands out too much for you when it comes to trying to slow down this run game. And I think you can certainly have an edge when it comes to slowing down this offense. If you can get the run game behind the sticks and force them to throw the football, but of course they're very comfortable in that regard as well. Barron Morton playing some of his best football, coming off a clinic, 300-plus yards, 3 touchdowns against West Virginia. Wasn't needed much against UCF. He was efficient in that one. In the game against BYU, he completed 53% as the season low. They had a lot of mishaps in the red zone. They got inside the 20, inside the 10 a lot in that game. They had to settle for field goals, and I think that could potentially be the biggest discrepancy in maybe the final score in this one, is they could win by a lot more. I mean, they got in the red zone 7 times, only had 2 touchdowns, had to kick it 4 times. That's not great, and they're a lot better than that. I mean, their touchdown proficiency's been tremendously better than that throughout the year, other than maybe the Houston game. So that was shocking to see them have that poor red zone offense, but credit to the BYU defense. This is a secondary that can make things competitive. Tanner Wall at safety, 4 interceptions. Cougars have 15 collectively the last couple of years. They've been great at forcing turnovers. The secondary is a legit group. Of course, they're going to have tough matchups. Caleb Douglas, a nice possession pass catcher. Coy Aikens, pretty explosive. Reggie Virgil gives them a lot. He's at times out of the slot, and then Terrence Carter at tight end. He's coming off a phenomenal game. I think career high in receptions for him with 10 against West Virginia, and he's also been giving them some good play throughout the year. So they have a very versatile group in the backfield and through the air. It's very tough to defend this Texas Tech offense. I think the offensive line for the Red Raiders is very underrated. This is a group that does not get talked about enough. Howard Sampson on left tackle is having a great year. I think the interior is a little bit inconsistent. Sheridan Wilson's a tremendous pass blocker. Davion Carter's great as well. The left guard, Will Jados, has shockingly been very inconsistent this year. I think they could pull him back at times. Jacob Ponton at right tackle, probably one of your other weak links. He's given up a couple sacks this year, but I think still a really good, underrated group, and I think they're going to be able to handle this test well. For Texas Tech, though, it's just going to be the same. Grind out rush yards, be better in the red zone. And then their quarterback, I think he's starting to really find his groove after battling some injuries early on in the year. And so this is a secondary that can make things competitive. If BYU can stand tall in short yardage against the run, create opportunities for this offense. We're going to need short fields. Expect them to be a lot more aggressive in this one, especially when it comes to their blitzes from the linebackers and trying to, just showcase good instincts and football IQ to try and jump routes or potentially jump runs that are going to lower their chance of converting. Moving to the final thoughts on the prediction. Again, we just saw these teams play a couple weeks ago, and I'm struggling to find things that will be different. That's why the analysis might seem like a little bland, but I'm really searching here on how BYU can make this more competitive. It's just a bad matchup for them. I think it's really a good football team. Kalani Sitake's done such a great job with this program. Just the one loss they have comes to these Red Raiders, and the game wasn't competitive one bit, and the score could have been a lot worse as well. This offense is just not built to take on a defense like this. As an absurd defensive line, the quarterback is going to really be centered around his legs and what they can do, and just that's not something that's going to work against Tech. They have not been able to establish anything, that being opposition, when it comes to running the football in BYU. They need that run game to really succeed, and that's why I knew the game was over when they were down 2-3 scores, because I've seen it throughout the season, like that Colorado and Arizona game, where they're able to claw their way back in there with the quarterback run. I think their pass game really just lives in the short to intermediate range. You're not going to possess too much of a threat to get guys downfield without that pass rush getting home. And I think their defense, they can make this one competitive with their ability to force turnovers. I think they can be good against the run as well, potentially create some pressure. It's not really their thing, though. They don't create too many negative plays unless it's coming from those linebackers. Just going to have to be stout on special teams, take a lot of risks. And I think that's going to potentially get BYU into a lot more trouble than it is going to be creating good. So I think it's going to be a blowout. I think Texas Tech, they're going to handle business a little bit easier than last time. They're going to cover that 11.5-point spread. And again, they really settled for a lot of field goals last time. It's probably not going to be the case again. So they're probably going to run this one up a little bit. I just do not see a path of victory for BYU unless Texas Tech all of a sudden their defensive line doesn't hop off the bus, but they will in Arlington. They're going to get the job done. They're going to lock up, I think, a first-round bye, it appears, in the college football playoff. That's going to be it for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.